Save that for another day, okay? We'll do that. All right. Let's get into Tech Talk, of course. We do this every Friday, 11:35. Brought to you by our good friends at Hamilton Limousine. Adam Oldfield, the president and CEO of FBM and FBM3 Marketing, is with us here in studio. Good to have you back.
Hey, glad to be back. You know, this is twice this week, Bill. There's lots of tech happening this week, right?
This is great. Right off the top, I want to thank you once again for your advice a few weeks ago about investing heavily in Facebook. It's really working out well for me.
Hey, don't take everything I tell you as gospel. I mean, like, come on.
A week for Mark Zuckerberg.
You know what? Watching
it's not over yet.
It's not, and we're probably going to see the next week or two continue to decline. It is on the fastest losing end when it comes to members, and I'm talking Facebook members. People are deleting their account by the millions. Mm-hmm. So it's getting a little crazy when it comes to that side of things in respects to people dropping their account, their privacy issues being concerned. And I mean, you said it best. I think it's one of those, like, we gave them permission. Yeah. That's exactly what happened, right? So it's
on page 16 of that 1,000-page thing that says I accept.
Yep.
Which nobody read. You have given them permission to share information.
Everything, yes. And they're speaking loud and clear about the fact that your information is being sold. I mean, this is and if you don't want it, you can easily remove and delete. I mean, they're entitled to archive your info, but you do. I mean, we've talked about that on Facebook, where there's art galleries of people who upload their photos and their artwork, and people are making prints of it and selling it. Yeah. And they're legally allowed to do this. So Facebook is an open market, and with your data and with the information.
This is going to get ugly because the government's going to get involved, and they're going to start regulating and restricting things, and that's going to make things a mess.
Yes.
And at some point, Facebook is going to have to reinvent themselves and say, we're not like that anymore.
Yeah, well, and it's
I don't think they're going away.
I think what I find interesting is that Zuckerberg is actually claiming to the government that we need more regulations. And I find that kind of an oxymoron. That's like me and my own company, my ad agency, kind of calling the government saying, could you please regulate my company? Could you help
and tax me
some more while you're at it? Because I need help running how I set up my own company. I find that the worst analogy I've ever actually seen. So yeah, I mean, with Zuckerberg making that comment, I thought, are you insane? I mean, I might be missing something.
I get the answer for you. He needs a therapist. Okay. And we've been talking about artificial intelligence on the program last time. There apparently now is an artificial intelligence therapist.
Yes. I mean, you know what?
Can Mark get a hold of this guy?
He probably could, and he would want this one. And I'll tell you why. Because the cost on artificial intelligence when it comes to therapy, I mean, anyone who goes through therapy, first of all, it's phenomenal. It has helped a lot of people. I know it does. However, it's costly. And if you don't have a benefits package or a government plan that's going to pass and let everybody go for free, you have to pay up to $150 to $200 for a therapist. This artificial intelligent capability is only $9.99, and it will help you therapeutically get through processes like stop smoking, deal with anxiety, deal with pressures, and it's working. So for only $10 a month, you can now sign in, and apparently you get up to 5 sessions for $10, and you can then pay extra at $2.99. And this artificial intelligence will listen to you speak and will determine what your message is, calculate it in a database, and say, these symptoms we hear relate to this data that they bought from Facebook. And they're able to now determine the solution. I'm only teasing about the Facebook side, is going to determine. Bill's looking at me with full strength on, wow, I didn't realize they were doing. No, I'm making that a joke. So they take real data from other patients, and they're able to determine and factor that into what could you do to deal with your issues, whether it's anxiety, smoking, sleep deprivation, all of that kind of things. So, and it's working. It's actually, the health metrics have been tested, and they have proven that this is a solution that can help you deliver that issue.
That's very cool. I want to stay with artificial intelligence for just a second. Remember that old oldie song, I Fought the Law and the Law Won?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, apparently in California, there's a bunch of lawyers that can sing, I fought artificial intelligence, and they won.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, it was quite intriguing, talking artificial intelligence and the database of information that's being collected on a regular basis. This is something of which we can now look at and know that lawyers are just as smart as artificial intelligence, and they do know the law. However, in most cases, the artificial intelligence was able to answer quicker and with more accuracy. So in the case of being able to say, I'm going to charge you by the hour, you can now potentially buy an artificial intelligence and now pay by the minute. So it is going to be a problem.
It's the same fee.
It
is. Lawyer. I'm only kidding.
It could be an option for many in the future, but yes, artificial intelligence actually has.
But you know what this is, though? I mean, this is not going to put lawyers out of business. It's going to be a useful tool for lawyers.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the efficiencies.
Instead of having to say, you know, send your junior or your law clerk over to go through 18 volumes of something. Bingo.
Yeah, this will actually be, and probably allow lawyers to take on more clients.
Sure.
They'll be able to bill less and not have a high volume of staffing behind them to be able to secure that. So the artificial intelligence was, and it makes sense because the law is written pretty clear. I mean, most of the interpretation elements is what the lawyers do. So artificial intelligence will determine this is the law, but I'm no lawyer, so I'm not speaking on behalf of lawyers, but I do know lawyers are very critical in the case of understanding all components of here's what the law says, here's what the solution is, and here's why it's important is because they just save themselves hours and hours and hours of research to be able to be done directly by artificial intelligence.
So this is a good thing.
It is, absolutely.
Lawyers are going to stay, everybody else will too. I mean,
that's right.
The medical profession, as you've been saying, has been using this for a long time right now. So why not legal?
Yeah.
We have been talking about the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund for a long time. You know, they're very, very wealthy. They've done very well. Now, God bless them. I mean, you know, they know how to invest money and make money. They own the Toronto Maple Leafs. Well, a good deal of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Rogers owns them now. But, I mean, they've been there. They sold most of their shares. They're involved in bridge things and construction things. Now it's video games.
Well, you know what?
But it's not just any
video game. Listen, the one thing I can say, if you want good advice, and as a businessman, I mean, I have followed the teachers' pension group in regards to how they invest. They are the smartest investors. They know how to use money. They really do. I mean, they bought the Turkish airport and flipped it for millions of dollars. I mean, they're one of the smartest. So when I saw this, I thought it was important because we don't talk about video games too often, but I thought it was relevant because this says something about what they've done their research on. I mean, when you look at the stock market, you look for trends. I look at what the teachers union is going to be purchasing because they have invested $400 million into this new video game. It's called Assassin's Creed. And I can honestly tell you, it's got to be the right decision because Assassin's Creed is now moving on. I think it's their fourth segment or launch that's coming out. It's got a big history. It's a game of where you become a character in the past, and they've invested $400 million for a return when this video game will be launching in the next 2 years. That's a sure tell that this is a great return on investment because I don't know much about their pension losses when it comes to when they invest, and they haven't lost yet.
Well, and I know that they always get vilified every time we talk about teacher strikes or contracts and negotiations
for the
province. And they say, well, they've got that lucrative pension fund. You know what? You should be jealous of them.
Watch what they're doing. Don't be jealous.
That's their money. And they invest in that, and whoever of their board of directors, I want them doing my stuff, my portfolio.
They're viciously amazing.
They're rarely wrong, and they everything they do it turns to gold.
Well, and this is what I wanted to bring up because I'm going to keep an eye on this. We'll talk about this in probably a year from now when Assassin's Creed comes out, and we'll see. Video games is because the esports is really blowing out of the market right now. And when I say that, it's funny. I was interviewing a student, and one of the topics was, you know, tell me one of your strengths, and his comment was, well, I've got the highest score in Call of Duty. I said, that's a strength? And he said, well, yeah. I said, wow, ever? Like, I mean, on this online gaming world, you've got the highest score? He says, well, no, I beat my friends all the time. I'm really good at it. And I thought, that's a skill set. I'm hearing this is what a skill set is. So video gaming is $1 billion business. And the new sport, by the way, if you haven't heard, is going to be watching live video games. And they're doing this up at the Cineplex and large theaters where you can watch players play sports, video games. Yeah. And it's going to become it is a professional sport. So this speaks to me that if the not just it's a video game and everyone may like it, it speaks to me that this particular investment is got some longevity and life to it that it will probably lead into, I would say, a sport competition or something that's going to have a lot of viewership.
It's taken off. I mean, this is not Mario Brothers anymore, or or even there's so many different things. I guess we're way back when in those days. But it's become such an industry right now where you're watching a television show and the commercial comes on, you think, oh, that's a new movie. Oh, no, it's not. It's a video game.
Yeah. The graphics and the speeds at which we're watching video games or videos these days it's unbelievable. And I think I honestly can say that the games keep getting better and better. I mean, Call of Duty almost looks so realistic. I believe there's been a lot of complaints in the sake of violence in video games and everything else. However, in a lot of ways, this is still a massive popular feature in regards to our kids. I mean, I remember my dad giving me heck constantly saying, get off the video games. That's not going to amount to nothing. Now it's $1 billion business. And I think, I don't know how to approach this with my daughters to say, start playing. They don't, but I maybe need to encourage them. Start playing some video games. You need to get better. Hone your skills. Sit in the basement. Work a little harder, will you?
Start investing.
That would be the smartest way, yes.
Let's talk about Google Assistant.
I love Google Assistant. I think if I have to compare, and we've talked about this before, you got Bixby, you got Alexa, you got Siri, and we know where Siri is, nowhere. And we've got, Google Assistant is the most strongest and growing. The new feature they just launched on the upgrade that's coming out with Apple and with Android is now the ability to instantly tell your Google Assistant to send money. So now I could, as I'm driving, because you know what? Distractive driving, as you know, Bill, is getting very serious. You want to be able to control things, both hands on the wheel. You want to be able to pay your bills easily. You can now do that by telling Google directly who you want to send money to, and it will instantly link to your bank and transfer the funds over to it.
We have talked about privacy issues, and justifiably so. And the Facebook thing, of course, falls right into that genre. Right. But cell phone privacy is something that a lot of folks tend to forget about because they figure, what's the big deal?
That's right.
But when your cell phone is on, they can tell where you are. They can tell who you're talking to, and they can send you information anytime you want. Now, there was an option, as you told us on TechTalk a while ago, that you could opt out of this program.
That's right.
But apparently, that's not going to last.
No. What's happened is the government, our Canadian government, has announced that we will all be mandatorily have to have the emergency system now connected. If you want to call it the 911 feature to it, where you normally see, please note, 911 is not always available on your cell phone. That is changing to the point now, most phones that are being upgraded right now in Canadian markets are all on the LTE network. As we discussed this past week, the 5G network's coming out already, and LTE allows for every phone that Canadians are on the tower to be able to, how's the word I say, overtaken by the government. And technically that's what would happen in the case of an emergency, a flood, a hurricane, an ice warning, I hate to say this, a bomb threat, whatever the situation may be, they can instantly now connect to every phone in an emergency signal. What will happen is your phone will start to make a very loud screeching sound, very similar to when you saw the television, do the testing broadcast, or on radio, we have this is a test. That will happen on your phone. So imagine the screeching sound coming over your phone unannounced, and then on it will be a government message.
Okay, this is really important. You travel a lot, obviously, for business.
Yep.
But even somebody who's going on holidays or something, the killer always is roaming charges on your phone.
That's right.
Well, I'm going down to Florida or I'm going to Chicago or something like that. And you say, I want to call home. And then you get your bill and you say, oh my God. Now, the good news is Canada has signed a commitment to end roaming charges. But the bad news is
it's not binding. It's not binding. Bill, it's like you and I writing a letter together on Tech Talk. We've made an agreement that we're going to talk nothing about Android, but it's not binding. It means that it's a great kumbaya, fist bump, high five. Let's share champagne, have a craft beer from our local Hamilton brewery, but it means nothing.
Now here you go, taking a shot at the government again.
I did
because they've also promised that by 2022 there aren't going to be any roaming charges in North America. Why shouldn't I believe them? I'm not kidding.
I know. I know you're not. That is a truth. That is the truth.
It's the truth that they promised.
They promised, yes. But let me tell you, we've just talked about the fact that in the last 2 weeks, our data fees just went up, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, we also announced that they're going to be putting a 5G network between Quebec and Canada, which is going to cost the taxpayer $60 million per province. So yeah, I'm having a difficult time in the sake of the private tower, the companies, the four that we have in this country are going to be saying, we've got to pay for this 5G network, folks. And that whole emergency sound system, we got to upgrade all the towers to be LTE. Who's paying for that? This is a private company. They're going to be adding the cost, and where they make their money is on roaming fees. Now, I don't want to go encouraging our listeners at CHML to do things that are wrong, but what I can do is give you advice. I own an agency down in the States, and my FPM marketing is in Orlando. I have an AT&T number, and one of the things is I'm running my AT&T line for $45. I get 3 gigs high speed, unlimited calling in Mexico, the United States, and Canada, and it works perfectly fine. So I'm saying they've removed the roaming fees in the USA already. Yeah. In Canada, I really can't see it happening because there's so much money to be made. When you travel across, regardless of the network, you're going to be hit with up to $20 to $100 extra cost for roaming fees.
Let me do a quick one if. I know we're running short on time. We're talking about NAFTA negotiations and everything. What if one of those deals that finally comes in is, okay, Verizon, you can come in here? What's that do to it?
Well, it will, okay, hands down, that binding agreement signing and no roaming changes the game 100%, and it would happen. There isn't even a question. I don't even sit on the CRGZ board. It would just be, okay, Verizon's now offering exactly what we all hand shook on down in Brazil. There will be no more roaming fees in Canada or in the US and the Caribbean market, meaning all the islands that are in approval of this.
We got just a couple of minutes left. I got to ask you about this Mercedes deal because this is kind of neat.
Yes.
For people that get locked into leases or they buy a car and figure I've changed my mind. There's a way out of this now. Well, it's a better way.
It's a better way. And if you're anyone that's in place of where you pay, $2,000 a month is a lot of money when it comes to leasing a car. And one of the things is you get locked in $2,000, you drive this car for 3-5 years, depending on your lease. Mercedes now is coming up with the same, I call it the Netflix model. They're basically paying, you get 12 for your fees every month. I'm just quoting 2,000 as a rough number. Whatever the fee is every month, you will have up to 6 classes of Mercedes, and they're claiming that you will be able to change your vehicle every 30 days. Now, on the higher growth, so if you went from a C class to an M class or a CLS, maybe up to 60 days, but you could change your car or update your car every 30 days, just paying your monthly fee. There's an ongoing agreement up to so many years, but it's kind of like buying your cell phone, except imagine you paid for your cell phone and every month you're like, I'm going to try an Apple this month. I'm going to go to an Android next month. This is sort of the Mercedes deal. So you can upgrade, and they're going to be launching this fairly shortly. It's being used on I believe Audi's doing it before. Mercedes is now rolling out. So if you thought about, geez, I don't know what Mercedes to buy.
SUV this month and
at C class the next. So so you could SUV in the winter and then go to the C class in the summer. So I mean, there are obviously stipulations, and Mercedes would have to speak to it, but they're announcing they're going to be coming out with this feature that allows you to pay a monthly fee, and you got up to 12 cars to choose. That's one a month you can pick from every month. Try a new one.
There you go.
Yeah, never get bored again.
Easy peasy. Now all you have to do is come up with a monthly payment.
That's right.
Another challenge. We do this every Friday, 11:35. Tech Talk brought to you by Hamilton Limousine with Adam Oldfield from FPM and FPM3 Marketing. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Back after the break on 900 CHML.